Still in play. Oh, what a goal! What a magnificent, absolutely stupendous strike from Kevin Kurani. Moravec through the roll. Lovely chip on 4-1 Schalke.
Blau und Weiß ein Leben lang. Man, that song sounds so sweet. Willkommen zum das einzige Schalke Podcast auf Englisch. That's right, folks. Episode 98 of SchalkeMerica. Welcome back. It's been a while. Missed this thing. It's been a few weeks, but we are excited to be back. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. This pod obviously aims to bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. Talk to English-speaking fans of the club, get their point of view across, and bring you game highlights. Joining me on the show for Season 4 is Jack Mangan. Jack, how we doing?
Make it sound like I'm a new addition just for Season 4. Jack Mangan. Yeah. No, yeah, it doesn't really feel as though away from soccer for too long because the Champions League final was only, a couple weeks ago, and obviously there's still like MLS and NWSL action happening and everything, but Schalke have been out of commission for a little bit. Looking forward to getting back into that before my hopes and dreams are inevitably crushed, probably the first couple games, because that early season ain't too friendly for us, my friend.
Yeah, that's it isn't playing too kind to us. What is it? We talked, before the podcast. 3 of our first 5 games are against Bayern, Leipzig, and Dortmund. Hello, welcome 2020-21. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy opening start to the season. We'll see how the boys will do. They look decent in preseason, but we'll get to that. First off, I think we just start off with. Well, first off, look at the kit. I'm wearing the alternate jersey tonight, Jack.
Love that.
You cannot get that at the SchalkeMerica store. You can't get our gear from there, but you can get it from the Schalke US store or on Fanatics. Make sure you go there and get your gear. It's not too big of a surprise, at least for you and I, that Wagner is still manager, but it seems that a lot of people were surprised that Wagner remained in power. What are your thoughts on Wagner staying?
Well, I mean, Schneider had come out and made statements prior to the end of the season that suggested that he was still fully invested and planned on sticking with him regardless. But anytime you go on a 16-game winless streak to end a season, I mean, I think it's only fair that a number of supporters are questioning whether or not he's going to be at the helm going forward. But, apparently he is. Joachim Schneider is sticking with them. I thought I heard a report a couple weeks ago. I could be making this up, so take it with a grain of salt. But I thought I heard some report that, even though he's publicly standing by David Wagner, the board may have directed him to, on the side, begin a search for a managerial replacement. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but probably not a bad idea, once again, considering the schedule that we have to start things off, because it's going to be tough, and obviously we all have that expectation going in. So if it does go sideways for us in the first couple of weeks, it shouldn't be a surprise. That should probably be kind of the expectation. But at the same time, if this upcoming season starts off the way the last one ended, it's going to be really hard for, I think, Wagner to hold on to that position.
Yeah, I think the key is going to be how competitive do we look in those matches. Now, we remember the starts we've had again with Weinziel and the infamous 0-for-5 starts that we've had. Those were they weren't super difficult opponents. This is a very difficult gauntlet to start the season. So you can't take too much against it. I think if can't hold it against us if we do start out 0-5, because there's some difficult teams in there outside of the 3 teams we just mentioned, Union Berlin and Werder Bremen. So it's a pretty tough 5-game slate to open up. It's going to be difficult. I'm not too surprised that Wagner is still in charge. I wanted to see a full season under him, another season under him, see what he can do in the off season. Had an off season to really train with the team and get the players. And he got some new players in, so to speak. Kind of.
Yeah.
But I was curious to see how he would do with some of the old faces on the team, and I've been pretty satisfied. I mean, it started out rough in preseason, but I think at the last few games we've looked pretty decent. I thought I've been getting more and more optimistic How about you looking at the team in preseason here?
I don't take a lot of stock in any of the preseason friendlies, the test spiels. I think people freak out about some of the results, whether they're good or bad. I don't necessarily think they're always indicative of what we're going to end up seeing. And there were some stinkers in there, and then obviously we ended on a high note with a 3-0 against Bochum, I think.
Bochum, yeah.
I don't think there's all that much from those matches to really discuss outside of people being generally fairly pleased with Mark Ute and how he's looking.
That would be my only thing that I would say.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like he's had a pretty good preseason from what I'm hearing. People seem relatively pleased with how he's looking, and that's one of the guys that's going to be attempting to reintegrate into the squad here. And hopefully this season he can put in some better performances and potentially capitalize on the promise of what we thought he had when we brought him in from Hoffenheim originally. I'm not holding my breath for that at all, but we'll see.
It was also Nick. It was also good for us as Americans to see Nick Tategui out there on the pitch with the senior team. I was happy to see that. Good to see him out there and getting some pitch time. Looking forward to see what he could probably provide for the team going forward.
They thought they were rid of the Americans, but not yet. We're still here. They can't get
growing.
rid of us.
We're growing.
McKennie exits the first team on loan to Juve, which we'll talk about in a minute. Nick Tategui, my friends. Yeah. So I think he was just playing with the U23s the other day. In a friendly, yes. I think it was a friendly. Maybe it was actually an actual.
Him and Matthew Hopp both did well in that game. We also got Evan Rotondo on the wings. I saw some highlights of him. He's looking very technically sound. So yeah, a lot of Americans. We're not going to go away here with Schalke, which is great for us. Great for everyone, really. So yeah, that's a little bit on Wagner. I think it's going to be important not only the first 5 games, the difficult gauntlet, but to see what he really does throughout the first half of the season. The way they play, is it going to be the team that we saw in the first half of the season last year or the second half? If it's a team that we saw in the second half, you can probably bet good money that they're going to start looking for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you hate that cliche in football, right? Like, oh, the game was a tale of two halves, or like, it was a tale of two halves of the season. But I mean, it really was the case. We were up and around the Champions League places for most of the first half of the season there, and then the Rückrunders were really when the wheels completely fell off. It was a completely different team. So yeah, it's kind of like 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Which one are we actually going to get from David Wagner and Schalke this season? And it all kind of goes back to the kind of things you and I were talking about at the tail end of the Rückrunde, where David Wagner was saying, if I had the players, like, we'd be getting good results. And so I'm sure some of that was in response to some of the injuries that we were experiencing at the time with Serdar and Harit being out. But at the same time, the financial situation doesn't allow for much to happen in the transfer market. We're going to go into it right now, and the vast majority of the action has been either players leaving or players being reintegrated that we already had on the books. There's not a lot of fresh blood for us to improve things with. So David Wagner is very much going to be playing with a similar batch of toys in this season. He's going to have to conjure up, a different outcome out of that somehow. So we'll see.
Well, I'm glad you talked about all those moves, because there were several moves that took place this offseason. Obviously, we knew we were cash strapped, so we had to be very creative in our moves. First, let's talk about the departures that we had. Obviously, we knew Daniel Caligiuri was leaving. He went on his way to Augsburg. Obviously, we knew about Alexander Nubel going to Bayern. Some other notable moves, Bernard Tekpeti went to Ludogorets on loan. Jonas Karls went to Guimarães in Brazil. Cedric Teukert went to Union Berlin. And Pablo Insua went to Huesca. But I think the one that we weren't prepared for was
Pablo Insua, like the guy that's like never actually played for us, but has been on our books for years. Like
that guy.
I mean, it's almost like he's like a young player for Chelsea or something. But I wish him well in his endeavors going forward. We barely saw the guy.
Yeah. I didn't even know until I went here and on transfer market. I'm like, oh, you still have this guy? Really? Anyway, but I would say the one fish that we didn't expect kind of came out of the blue was Weston McKennie going to Juventus. Many teams were talking about him going to Premier League, or maybe even Hertha Berlin was there flirted a while. But out of nowhere, Juventus comes in, they swoop in, get a loan with obligation to buy, possibly at the end. What was your initial thoughts when that deal went through?
Completely out of left field, I think, for everyone, including people like us that are actually following that more closely than sort of the larger, European soccer scene or, U.S. men's national team scene. Because as you said, it seemed like early on when we knew that McKennie probably wanted to move on. And even if he was, lukewarm on that, he was probably going to be the guy that we were going to try to sell anyway, given our financial difficulties, because we know there's a market for those, that American talent. And, he's expressed an interest in playing in England. And so it's those early rumors were lower mid-table Premier League side, Southampton, something in that kind of range. I think I heard like Everton once, which would have been like on the higher end of like kind of what we were looking at. None of that really ever seemed to materialize. And then suddenly there was talk of, a bigger money move for us to Hertha Berlin. That may have even been at the end of last season, because I feel like we may have talked about that at some point.
I think so.
I mean, or maybe not, but it seemed to me to be a move that I didn't personally, because that's at best a lateral move. I mean, obviously Schalke hasn't been good in the last couple, recently, but I just don't understand why you would go from like a team like Schalke that traditionally is supposed to be fighting for European places to Hertha Berlin. Didn't seem like the move, and then also just that kind of money didn't seem likely either. So that kind of fell away too, and everything was quiet suddenly on the McKennie front. And then out of nowhere, there's this rumor about Juventus being interested, which I think just caught everyone by surprise, because once again you're looking at Southampton, looking at Union Berlin, and then suddenly you have the team in Italy, one of the premier teams,
Cristiano Ronaldo's team.
Yeah, suddenly expressing an interest, and that all kind of got wrapped up fairly quickly, actually, once that rumor broke. I mean, you can't blame McKennie for being interested in making that move. I had some concerns going into it about whether or not it's the best move for him, because there's a lot of people that are supporters of Schalke that don't actually view him as like a starter for us. They think he only gets minutes when there's injuries to the squad. I don't fully agree with that, but certainly if that was the case, that stepping stone to Juve is a much larger stepping stone, and there's a much higher barrier to entry for him to get into that starting 11. He's really going to have to up his game and be consistent. Sounds like the early reports from training sessions are that he's looking very well. Pirlo likes him, and maybe that kind of scrappy ball-winning player is exactly what Juve's been missing recently, and maybe that's kind of why they target him. But I mean, you would obviously have more insight to that given your Serie A podcast. But ultimately, the thing that I'm upset about with this move, said it on Twitter. Thanks for letting me ramble for 5 minutes here. But if you're going to sell McKennie, fine. But you need to sell him. You can't loan him. Because whether or not you like McKennie or not, you cannot deny that he was an important squad player for us, particularly last season, but for the past couple of seasons. He does a job for us. He's in the squad consistently. We're thin as it is with reinforcements. So not only are you going to let him go, you're not going to get any money in to replace him and potentially like buy another player with that. We got a loan fee of, what was it? Maybe like 3.5 million euros for the initial loan fee. Now the good news for us is that there is an obligation to buy in this loan move. It was initially reported that there might have been an option to buy, which would have been even more horrendous, because if McKennie doesn't play and then comes back, his market value is probably decreased by that point and everything. So, there is an obligation to buy. The obligation is triggered by Juventus qualifying for the Champions League, which we would all expect to be a lock. So Juventus are going to purchase him. We would think for about $18 million. I think there's another $7 million in bonuses that can be added on to that. So overall, we're looking at a fee of like potentially approaching 30 million euros, which, you know what, I'm fine with. I would have liked to see, something in the vein of like an outright sale in the region of like 25. But it's definitely a buyer's market when it comes to Schalke right now, because everyone knows the financial difficulties that we're in. So we don't really have as much negotiating power as we might otherwise have. And we haven't really shown to be particularly astute at that anyway over the past couple seasons. So it's only worse. Overall, I mean, I'm sad to lose him, obviously. I liked him. I thought he was an important player for us. I'm excited from the U.S. men's national team perspective, because I do think that, Schalke maybe wasn't the best environment for him in terms of, his usage. Exactly. So I think this could be a good thing for him ultimately. And, just from the U.S. men's national team perspective, it's incredible to see a young American player in training at Juve with Pirlo. Like, it's a big stage, I mean, it's bigger than Pulisic at Chelsea, honestly. I'm not saying he's a better player or anything like that. I'm just saying like Juve is a bigger club. I mean, do you differ from me in anything with that analysis?
No, not really. It's funny. I recently interviewed, so Fabrizio Romano is one of the biggest journalists in the world. And he's just started up a new podcast called the Here We Go podcast. And I interviewed his co-host, Francesco Porzio, and we were talking about transfers. He's obviously in the transfer world as well. And so we were talking about, trades or signings that were left out of left field. And this one came up because no one saw this really. Sport 1 here in Germany, we're in Germany. In Germany, broke the news, and and within a matter of hours, it was done. And many people questioned it. You were talking going to mid-table teams, and all of a sudden he's going to the top team in Italy. Many people were unsure why he would go there. But it's funny because I listened to the Andrea Pirlo press conference before the season, obviously, and he talked about what kind of player he was looking for, and he was basically describing Weston McKennie, bulldog in the midfield who's going to fight for the ball when he has the ball or doesn't have the ball. Someone has grit, someone has fight, and that's exactly what Weston McKennie is. And we've seen in preseason thus far, he has been everything that Pirlo has wanted, and because of that, he might have a decent chance of starting in that team, surprising or not. Because Arthur is more of a playmaker type, and Bentancur as well. So, I mean, they don't really have a third option, Rabiot maybe, but it's going to be between him and that guy. Yeah, so, I mean, Weston McKennie right now gives him exactly what Pirlo wants, and this is only good for Schalke because we're going to obviously get money, hopefully.
I would just prefer to have it now as opposed to in installments or at some point in the future, but yeah.
I agree. And the one thing I would say, normally Juventus is a lock for Champions League. I agree, but this is one of the most difficult years for Juve in terms of being a Champions League because there's some actually quality good teams. There's probably 5-6 teams that could challenge for Champions League. However, I think Juve
still say it's an upset though if they don't though.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, it's an interesting deal. I do think it pays off better for Weston McKennie and for the U.S. men's national team because he has a position that he can lock into more than 8 position. But for Schalke, it's we lose a quality squad player whether you like him or not. It's the truth. And we don't get that money up front. I think it works out to like $5 million or $5 million US dollars ultimately. But yeah, it's a shock to the system, no doubt about that. And some other moves, those are the guys we lost. And then we brought in a bunch of players. Well, first off, the players that got promoted. Nick Tatugui was one of them. Timo Becker, Malek Tiao, and Chan Bazduan, who we saw at the end of the season, both him and Tiao. Those are ones who got promoted to the senior team. We knew we needed to address some situations. We had the right back, left back situation, goalkeeper, and striker position. So first, one of the first chips that fell was Vedad Ibisevic from Hertha Berlin. We got him on a free transfer. Mm-hmm. And then we got a bunch of players back into the team from old-time players, I guess you want to say, for the last couple of years. Nabil Bentaleb is back, as is Steven Skripski, Mark Uth, Ralph Fährmann, and as well as Sebastian Rudy, and one other. What was the other one? Hamza Mendel. So those players all came back from their loans. Mm-hmm. And then today, 2 bits of news. Gonzalo Pacienza from Eintracht Frankfurt, a loan with for 2.2 million, I think it was, US at least. I think it was like €1 million. We got him on. We got him. And the last tip that fell was Ahmed Katucu possibly getting loaned out to a Bundesliga club for the season. Where do you want to start with this?
Let's save Katucu for the end because I have quite a few things to say about that, as I'm sure you would imagine. That's going to be a surprise to nobody. But yeah, as we already mentioned, we don't have the money to overhaul the squad. The things that we probably would have liked to do when the new regime took over in terms of, Schneider and Reschke and everybody in terms of squad planning, we just are not in the position to really go out there and really try to realize those ambitions. So it is what it is. As you said, Sebastian Rudy comes back. David Wagner apparently is going to try him out at right back. That seems to be the plan. Yeah, I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I will be the happiest person on the planet if I'm proven wrong and that turns out to be some sort of, masterstroke, but I hate that. And I don't think there's a lot of analysis that I need beyond it. I mean, I'm not a fan of Rudy in general. I think he was terrible for us in the matches he did play for the most part. Seemed largely uninterested in the midfield. Not a good work rate. Didn't do much of anything at the time. I'm annoyed that we couldn't get rid of him, permanently, honestly. And so the idea that he's going to come in and solve our right back issues, not buying it. So let's talk about the right back thing for a second. Obviously, last year, Daniel Caligiuri as an option to potentially play back there. And then, of course, John Joe Kenny on loan from Everton. It sounds like there have been some overtures made to Everton about potentially bringing him back on loan. It sounds like Everton only wants to let him go if it's a permanent sale. Can't do that for obvious reasons. And then Caligiuri, as you said, left to Augsburg. So suddenly we're left with 0 right backs unless Sasha Rieder wants to, trade his suit back for a kit and come in at the age of, 40, however old he is now. Yeah, we've done nothing really. I mean, our search for a right back has resulted in us bringing back, a midfielder on loan and just pretending that he can be Joshua Kimmich. I mean, it's absurd. So, yeah, I hope that works out, but I'm not a fan of it. How about you?
I'm not a fan of that either. I'm even less of a fan of Hamza Mendel being a backup option for Bastian Oczipka. While Juan Miranda wasn't that great either. I think we still need a quality left back option, because Oczipka is a workhorse, but we work someone that much, they're bound to get injured. And you want to have an option, a safety net, just in case that does happen, or maybe someone who's even better. Who knows? But I'm not expecting Hamza Mendel and Sebastian Rudy to be the keys to save our season. We're gonna have to be very disciplined defensively, and I'm talking about the midfielders coming back and helping out, because just counting on those four in the back is not going to be good enough. And we saw early on the preseason how there were gaping holes back there. At times it was just Benjamin Stambouli and Ralph Fairman. So we need to have a lot of all hands on deck in terms of defensive play, especially the wing backs and even the midfielders, to really make sure we lock things up. And we're going to get a difficult test against Bayern.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have Alphonso Davies working on Sebastian Rudy.
Yeah, Gnabry.
Come on. I mean, it's not a serious solution. I mean, and like I said, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but it's not. There's been a lot of excitement on Schalke Twitter about the return of Mendel. Obviously, I don't share in that. I'm willing to give all these guys a second chance.
Absolutely,
I believe in that in general, not to get too dramatic, but also given the circumstances, like, sure, I'm happy to keep an open mind and see what they can do for us. But and Mendel did better on his loan stint than he had played at Schalke. But anyone who's overly excited about Mendel, I think, is not accurately remembering how bad he was when he actually played for us, because he was not good. Like significantly worse than Bastian Oczipka. So we obviously need depth. We can't just go into a season with only Bastian Oczipka. So I'm fine to have Mendel back, but he really needs to step up his game.
Isn't Mendel one of our strikers? I remember him playing striker against Dortmund.
Weston McKennie, Hamza Mendel, legendary Revere Derby, striker.
That's almost as good as Di Santo and Burgstaller. Bring it up.
You know what? De Santo and Burgstaller was better, and I can't believe I just said something was better with De Santo.
This is being recorded. You know that, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, good lord. So yeah, I mean, we didn't, in my opinion, solve the issues at right back or depth with left back, particularly. I mean, we'll see how Mendel does. It could work out. He could be significantly improved. In that case, great. As for the goalkeeper situation, as you said, Nubel left. Fairman comes back on loan. He was at loan at Norwich, and then was he at a Norwegian club for like a couple months too? At the end of the season, yeah. Sounds like David Wagner's made the decision to go in with Fairman as being the number one to start the season. I'm fine with that. If he's outperformed Schubert, I'm fine with that. And yeah, I'm once again willing to give Fairman a second chance too. I think if anybody's earned it, it's him, given everything he's given to the club and the figure he's been over the years. I did feel bad that we kind of shipped him out immediately after. I don't disagree with necessarily taking him out of the starting lineup after the mistakes he made in that campaign when he had that bad run of games and we started giving Nubel minutes. But I do kind of somewhat disagree with just being like, all right, go to Norwich and sit on the bench there instead of sit on the bench here. So hopefully he does well. It sounds like he's looked pretty good through preseason, and maybe he can reclaim some of that previous form, because there's a long period of time where I felt like he was one of the more underrated goalkeepers in the Bundesliga and didn't get a lot of shine when he deserved it to some extent. So
there was a time where he was, he could have been called up to the D Mannschaft. It wasn't for Neuer and Ter Stegen and Reina. There's a bunch of guys that we had. Germany had a lot of good goalkeepers, so he couldn't get there. But he was a very underrated goalkeeper. I agree about that. And I think the one thing we both agree on that we've always said is that as long as the goalkeeper performs, you don't care who plays. Even when it was Nubel, after the whole Bayern saga, we said if you're gonna play well, then you can play. But that's the thing we care about the most. Would it help Schubert to be to play over getting some starting minutes? Maybe, yeah. But we want to make sure Ralph Fairman, I think, is a perfect tutor for him, perfect mentor for him, because he's been there. He can help him work through all this stuff, get the mental side of the game going, because that's really the thing. We all agree that Schubert has the skill set. It's the mental thing, which is hard for goalkeepers, and Fairman's been around, so he could actually help him with that. And I'm happy with the Fairman start. I'm content with it, I should say. he's looked good. This looked good so far. He made some big saves in preseason, one-on-one, which is nice to see. So yeah, it's interesting.
I can't wait for like Thomas Muller to hit a ball off the back of his kneecap in match 1 that somehow like confuses Fairman, and then he makes a mistake and then loses all confidence, and we have a goalkeeper drama from like the first game. We're right back into it. I think we're all kind of hoping that Fairman, settles things down and we don't have to keep talking about the goalkeeper drama, because that took up way too much of our time over the past season and that half or so. But yeah, I'm optimistic as well, and I'm very much fine with Fairman being back in there.
Well, this is SchalkeMerica, and we are American podcast. We got our South Americans in the house here. Enrico from Brazil. Welcome to the show, Enrico, and Doug. We see you there as well. So, yeah, it's this whole really at the end of last season, and then in the mid, and then in this off season, the rumor was we were going to get a goalkeeper from where the hell was he from? Yeah, Shvolov. So we thought we were going to get him, and then obviously we knew it was going to cost too much. It was like something 8.8 million euros.
Yeah, we were both kind of against that from the very beginning. So I'm glad that didn't. Yeah, I'm glad that didn't work out. But
yeah, so it's Fährmann and Schubert, and Fährmann is going to be the one who's starting in goal. So
and once again, I don't think keeper was our biggest problem last year. I think people are making way too big of a deal over the keeper situation. Like, yeah, it's important to have that, and if you're giving up cheap goals because your keeper play isn't good, yeah, it's going to affect you over the course of the season. But I think a much bigger concern is the fact that we scored 38 goals in 34 games, or that the defense was atrocious in the second half of the season.
I was going to say,
that's not, yeah, that's not entirely the keepers. You know what I mean? That's the back line and a lot of other things. So, yeah, we'll see on that. The other two guys were just Bentaleb and Utright. So Bentaleb, I mean, the talent's undeniable. It's there. When he's in good form, he's an excellent player and somebody that would absolutely elevate the squad. We've seen him reach some of those highs, in a Royal Blue kit already. The issue with him has been largely, disciplinary, to some extent. So and to be fair, David Wagner wasn't really given the opportunity to have a conversation with him and try to integrate him into the squad at the start of last season. The hierarchy had already kind of made the move to loan him out to Newcastle and get him out the door because of the way everything unfolded in that Tedesco second half of the season. So it wasn't as if like Wagner didn't want him last year. I don't know what the whole story is on that. It seemed like that kind of gotten taken out of his hands. So maybe Wagner had plans for him all along. Maybe he likes him. We'll see. I mean, I'm all in on Bentaleb, assuming that he can, stay committed for the entire course of a season and leave some of his antics behind. I mean, he's certainly old enough now where that shouldn't be a problem anymore.
I know Wagner and Bentaleb both spoke on the subject, and Wagner said he's excited to have a player of his skill set, in the team. And Bentaleb has come out as well as saying that hey, Wagner and I, we spoke. We're on the same page. I'm fully committed to what Wagner's trying to do here in Schalke. And that's what you want. You're expected to hear that, but
that's one person who's committed to what Wagner's trying to do with.
Hey. So yeah, it's an undeniable skill set that we need. We don't have many skill players in the midfield. Oh, we do. We have two prime ones, Harit and Serdar, but you could always have more. And he has pleasure. He has plenty of experience as well. So. I'm curious to see how he'll do. And then the other one is Mark Uth. We knew we thought we were getting a player from Hoffenheim that we ended up not getting. A striker who can move around, very mobile, and it didn't pan out at all with Schalke. It really failed miserably. We ended up sending him over to Cologne, and he did fairly well. He did fairly well there. And then all indications are from preseason so far, and it's preseason. He's looked well, and he's kept that similar form that he had Cologne, so that's looking good. If I was a betting man, and I'm not because I always lose, I would say that Ut has a good opportunity to start in these games based on what we saw in preseason.
I think part of the problem with him in the past has been that his ideal position is sort of that second striker role where he can kind of play off the shoulder a little bit, drop into slightly drop in and be that guy. And I think too often, there were times when Tedesco was playing him just straight up in the midfield. like not like attacking midfield, really, just like kind of in the midfield more. And that I don't think that worked for him. And there's also been times where he's been asked to kind of go out there and lead the line by himself. And I likewise think that maybe that isn't the best option for him. So it seems like David Wagner may have figured out a way to kind of use him correctly, get him back to what his strengths are. But I mean, ultimately, we have to face the fact that we kind of made a decision to sign this guy off of a very small sample size in terms of him playing particularly well, right? Like it was really just that one season for Hoffenheim where he caught the eye. The rest of his time was somewhat pedestrian. So it's not like he has this whole resume of excellent goal scoring that we signed him off of. It was kind of a flash in the pan thing. So, I mean, maybe that flash in the pan was a flash in the pan. Maybe that's not the player we bought that we thought we were. But as you said, seems like he's been doing okay in preseason and everything. And I'm perfectly willing to see what he can bring this season.
No, I agree with that 100%. Enrico brings up a good point. He says David Wagner was unable to act after the injuries of important players like Mascarell and Serdar last year. This season, with more experienced players in the squad, like the guys we just mentioned, this situation cannot be repeated. I think that's the key, though. If we are to be unfortunate with the injuries, which we kind of revamped the medical team after the debacle from the last several years, if we do get back into that kind of injury crisis, we do have depth, more depth now, not good depth, but we have more depth. You would hope that we would not repeat the same mistakes we did last year, or it should be an easy answer after that.
And I'm not trying to minimize the loss of Harit, Serdar, Mascarell that we experienced in midfield. Those were all starters, and that's going to definitely affect things. But if that takes your team from, European places to a 16-game winless streak, I don't think that's explained solely by the absence of those players. And if it is, the rest of your squad's trash.
Yeah,
which I don't think is entirely the case. So that I think David Wagner does have to take a lot of responsibility for that. And if we experience similar injuries, hopefully we don't fall apart like that again. Because I mean, a team like Schalke shouldn't have to rely on one or two guys to stay afloat. I mean, there's a difference between like, hey, we lost some good goal scorers. That's going to hurt us in trying to, compete with, Dortmund in Leipzig and Bayern with all that goal scoring to, finish top of the table. But it shouldn't take you to the other end where suddenly, you're
trash.
Looking at the relegation zone with like, a cautious eye, like, that pendulum swing, I think was far too wild for the injury situation to explain it fully.
No, yeah, that's 100% right there. Miguel's in the house. He says, "Hi guys, greetings from Brazil. As always, loving your work here on YouTube and Twitter. Keep it up." Thank you, sir. We appreciate that very much. Should we get to the strikers?
Big in Brazil, love it.
We are getting big in Brazil. I like it. So let's talk about the strikers that came in. First, Ibisevic. Yeah, he came in earlier in the offseason. Initially, I mean, people were very, to me, at least what I saw, were very against the move. I thought it would have been a good depth player. Looks like he might be a striker, or the starting striker. Well, we don't know now with Paciencia, but Ibisevic can score in Bundesliga. We've known that he's a proven commodity. At least against Schalke. At least against Schalke, he's always seems to score. So at least he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net, we hope. So I'm okay with this. It's a free transfer, right? So it's not a bad move. He's all he said, since he's been here is how he's fully committed to the team. And I think he said even, and I may be making this up, that any wages he gets, he's going to donate.
Yeah.
He's just looking to play for Bundesliga. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm like, how do you not like this guy?
Exactly. Yeah. And I was one of the guys that was kind of negative on Twitter about this. That wasn't so much that I think it's a bad move. It's that like, we have this massive issue to solve, which is a lack of goal scoring, and your solution to that is a 36-year-old on a free transfer. It's kind of like, here we go. But I mean, yeah, it is a free transfer. He's taking a, basement level salary and then supposedly donating it. So from that sense, I think it's perfectly fine business, and I don't mind having him in the squad. And, to be fair, 7 goals in the Bundesliga last season. That's better than any striker on our team last season.
He'd be the leading goal scorer, I think.
I think Harit and Serdar were in that range as well. Yeah. But like as far as the actual like forwards on the team, I mean, he would walk in being the leading goal scorer. So it's kind of hard to to dismiss it too much given what we had going on previously. But it sounds like he's just kind of motivated to be there and play and doesn't care about the contract too much, and just is at a minimum you would expect it to be a decent locker room guy to have that kind of experience and leadership and everything. So
I wonder if he has the stamina to play a full 90 minutes, and he is 36. We've seen a 38-year-old in Milan who's doing 90-minute games. Like, it's no problem with him. And I'm talking about Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I'm not comparing the two, but you wonder, as someone who's getting up there in age, and pretty much anyone after 32, do they have the stamina to last the full 90 minutes? We'll see. It's a good game, or not a good game. Good game for him to try, I guess, with Bayern if he does get the start. But
Richard, you got it reversed. It's the young guys that can't last 90 minutes. That's why Katuchu only gets 10-minute cameos. It's Bergstaller that's in there for the full 90, and Ivicevic is probably going to be the same. You got to reverse.
Yeah, you know me. My bad. So I thought he was going to be the official starter, maybe with him and Mark Uth. But just today, the medical was signed, or everything was signed. Gonzalo Pacienza comes on board, third striker from Frankfurt. It was a surplus for them. He comes over. The guy with the epic chin and the long locks. He's on board now. He's a decent player, decent Bundesliga player. I don't know between him and Ibisevic who gets a start. I assume one of them will. I doubt both will start. But I think one of them will. I don't know who do you tip your hat with? I mean, what do you make the move, and then who do you think will get that position?
I guess it kind of depends on like what Wagner's planning on doing with Benito Raman this year.
Yeah, it's another. We have options, not good.
He's kind of. I don't know where he stands. Is he more of a winger? Is he going to be played as in a striker partnership? Is he going to be a bench guy this year? I don't know where he's going to fit in exactly. I guess if I had to guess, I probably wouldn't suggest that Paciencia is going to be starting on Friday, just because that's a short time from when he joins the team to actually be in, against a big opponent. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's like Paciencia and Uth going forward as a partnership.
Yeah.
His loan move was what, like half the loan fee for McKennie. So
yeah.
Not bad option to buy as well for something. I think it was like 8 million range we could buy him for. I'm fine with that move. It doesn't excite me too much. But not bad. I think 10 goals in 34 matches, not last season, like overall, for Eintracht Frankfurt since he came in, which isn't great, but not a horrible goal return, especially when you're talking about, what Schalke players have been doing recently.
I feel like 10 goals were all against Schalke.
Could have been, yeah.
Everyone scores against it.
He's a decent all-around player. He's not like a striker who's like a pace merchant or somebody who primarily relies on his physicality. I think he's kind of all around, has decent technical ability. I like his movement around the final third, around the box. I think he, drifts off defenders and finds some space pretty cleverly at times, makes some good trailing runs, good shot on, pretty good in the air as well, which could be useful for set pieces. I mean, he's scored a number of goals, from headers and everything. So I'm fine with it. And, hopefully he can do a good job for us. Once again, I don't take a lot of stock in Teschpiels, but I think he just had a goal against Monaco in one of their preseason friendlies very recently that was pretty legit. So, looking forward to seeing what he can bring. If nothing else, that chin's just got to get a. Wow, I just hit my mic as I'm talking about that. That chin's got to give us something. It's got to give us a little bit of a boost,
Got to give us a goal for that, right?
Absolutely. I would love a goal off the chin. That would be. That'd be fantastic.
Intentional. I think, at least I think we're in agreement that, both Pacienza and Ibisevic are basically the same type of player, different parts of their career, but they bring similar thing. They hold up the ball well. They're good in the air and have a nose for the net. So Enrico says, he loves the hiring of Ibisevic excites him a lot. Excellent player. If it helps the team, he will score many goals this season. He has that potential. Another Brazilian in the house, he says, hey guys, what do you think will be the role of Uth in Wagner's system? And I think we both agree that we think the second striker role will probably be the best for Uth and for the team, because I think if Pacienza or Ibisevic is starting there, you can play Uth off of him. And then, like you mentioned about Rahman, where does he play? Where does he fit into this? Especially with Serdar and Harit back. Maybe the wing is a position for him. That's kind of what he played previously, or maybe put in the second striker role behind one of the big boys and give some time off for Uth, or if Uth's not playing, just play Rahman. I don't know how you do that, but that's why Wagner makes the big bucks, right? More than us, at least. So it's some interesting decisions to make for Wagner, no doubt about that. Some interesting moves, no doubt about it. So this kind of leads us to the big game on Friday.
Katuchu first.
Oh, wait, yes. How did I forget that? Let me back up a little bit. The big news today for all of us, I know all of you guys here, all our SchalkeMericans. The rumor was Ahmed Katuchu is going to be loaned out to a Bundesliga club, not to be named, so he can get some starting time this season. Where do you want to start? I know you do. You're chomping at the bit.
So, as I said earlier, I have a lot of thoughts about this. So, half the talk this offseason is how the striker position is a massive area of focus that we need to reinforce. And obviously, Bisevic, Paciencia, fine, whatever. But one of the things that we've been talking about was, hey, maybe this is actually an opportunity for Coutinho to get a significant amount of minutes because we're not going to be able to bring in, that talisman striker that we're looking for. And we're going to get a chance to actually see what he can do. And then, of course, we're apparently looking for a loan move for him because we would rather him go get minutes elsewhere than for us. And I don't understand it. I've seen a lot on Twitter today of people saying, yeah, but like he wasn't even really that good last year anyway. And okay, fine. Who was?
How can you be good for 10 minutes a game?
Well, that's part of it. He didn't really start getting significant minutes until, after the restart post coronavirus suspension. A lot of his early minutes were, as you said, 9 minutes at the end of the game, 10 minutes at the end of the game. Oftentimes when the game's already kind of out of hand at that point, it's not really, the greatest sample size for him. But, if your logic is Coutinho didn't play particularly well last season, so let's loan him out. Why is it Coutinho as opposed to Bergstaller, who, let me see what my notes are here, hasn't scored a Bundesliga goal since May 11th, 2019.
Sorry, I just saw your name right there.
Yeah, I changed it to Coutinho. Yeah, I did. Just for this segment. But I mean, so yeah, my point is like, if you're loaning out Coutinho because he hasn't been playing well, like relative to what? Why aren't you loaning out Benito Raman? Why aren't you loaning out Bergstaller? Why aren't you? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what is the argument for him specifically? It's not that he's playing bad, because I can tell you right now, this is a very cheap way of doing this because stats can be made to say whatever you want. But if you just want to go in terms of goals per 90, just pure goal prediction numbers, okay? Coutinho last season for Schalke in the Bundesliga, 0.41 goals per 90. Okay, he only had like 660 minutes the entire season in the Bundesliga. Bergstaller 0, obviously, because he hasn't scored since the end of 2019. Benito Raman 0.22 goals per 90. So it's about half. Mark Uth had 0.3 last season per 90, all of which were for Cologne, by the way. Yeah. In his time at Schalke, all of his Bundesliga matches for Schalke so far, like not just last season, but the season before, he has 2 goals in 1,759 minutes. That's 0.1 goals per 90 from Mark Uth. And Paciencia and Ibisevic walk into the lineup with better, goals per 90 ratings than all of those players, including Coutinho. But the point is, like, he hasn't been playing that well. No one has been playing better. It comes down to, in my opinion, either David Wagner just doesn't like him personally. Maybe there's something we're not seeing behind the scenes in terms of like training issues or like attitude issues. I doubt that. But it seems that he just doesn't like the system. And so here we are. Let's not focus on our investment in this young player who seems to have a lot of potential. It could be a star. Let's make sure we don't have to hurt the integrity of the system. This glorious system that led to a 16-game winless streak at the end of last season. Yes, please. Let's get rid of Coutinho to make sure we have the right players for the system that had us finish in the bottom half of the table. I don't buy it. And the other question is like, we're doing this presumably, I would imagine, once again, because David Wagner doesn't like him for the system. Is David Wagner even the coach after 5 games? Legitimate question.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
if we don't show up for those 5 games,
do you envision us beating Leipzig, Dortmund, or Bayern? I don't. And honestly, I mean, like, it's a new season. It's a fresh slate. We'll see how we do. And I'm not trying to be like too Debbie Downer here, but like, if we show up playing similarly to how we're playing at the end of the season, we could lose to Union Berlin. We could lose to Werder Bremen as well. We could lose 5 games in a row. You're telling me David Wagner is going to be there? And then we have to fight the rest of the season. And we've already loaned Coutinho out because he wasn't a fit for David Wagner, who is arguably not even a fit for the club in the first place. So anyway, I hate it. And yeah, go ahead.
The fair question is not whether we're going to win those games. It's, are we competitive in those games? I don't think we're going to win those games, at least the 3 games for sure. The question is, are we competitive against any of those 5 teams? And if we're not, you should certainly be looking for another manager. But if we are competitive against Bayern and all those teams, okay, that's different. And Doug brings up a good point because he says, if you're not going to play Coutinho, let him play somewhere else. And I agree about that. But he should be playing is what we're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, like from the perspective of, if David Wagner is in control and David Wagner has no intention of giving this guy significant minutes, then of course I support a loan move for Coutinho because we want him to get minutes. And if he's going to stay in the Bundesliga, great, all for it. Yeah, the argument I'm making is I don't think he should be the one who gets loaned out. Where
does he go to get minutes in the Bundesliga?
I don't know. I didn't see any those loan rumors that we were hearing today. I didn't see a specific team attached to it. So
if it's one of the bottom teams, as you would imagine, right, to get actually pitch time, where's he going to go? And then he's going to be on a struggling team. I mean, our luck, he's going to go there somewhere and score 10 goals.
I mean, but like the thing is, would you be surprised?
No,
If he goes to a lower level team that says like, hey, we're going to play you significant minutes from match day one. You're not going to be getting 10-minute cameos. Like once he gets integrated to the squad, he's going to be like kind of a rotation player, like getting legitimate starting minutes. Would you be surprised if he scores 10 goals? I wouldn't. The guy had 3 goals and 3 assists in the Bundesliga in 660 minutes last. I mean, like, is that a great goal return? No. But like, for the amount of minutes he played, I mean, like Robbie Matondo had more than twice as many minutes as Katuchu last season and had less goals.
Yeah.
It's the guy hasn't been as bad as people are making it out to be. And I don't think he's fully been given a fair shake. His first start once again was that Leverkusen game way deep into the Rook Runner. Like it took that long for us to even give him an opportunity. So, yeah, if this does end up happening, which obviously I'm against kind of on principle, but then yeah, I hope it goes well for him. And I hope we see him getting consistent minutes and getting that opportunity to see what we have. And, hopefully he doesn't score any goals against Schalke. That's all I can say.
If I was Jochen Snyder, and I'm obviously not, the stipulation would be if we loan him out, he has to start. He has to start, or at least be a normal rotation player. Because if he plays a similar role as he plays for Schalke, you're just wasting this kid's talent away, and it's unfair to him. I think he needs to go somewhere and be a starter on the team so we can see what he has. At least we know then, okay, yeah, he didn't have that. He plays well. Oh, he doesn't play well. At least we know.
So if he stays in the Bundesliga, where does he think he get? I mean, we're looking at like Mainz, Cologne, Augsburg. Yeah, it could be like. I mean, that's kind of the range we're thinking. Maybe like Union Berlin, although I doubt that. I doubt they would want him. But like,
imagine he goes to Bayern. Takes over for Lewandowski, and then I'll stop there. Arminia Bielefeld, they're new boys. Maybe them. Union Berlin. I mean, didn't they lose Anderson? I feel like they lost Anderson. Maybe not. We were rumored with him for a while.
If I missed that news, that's bad news to miss. I'm embarrassed if I didn't.
Yeah, there's a handful of teams I think in the Bundesliga where he would go and could start. Stuttgart might be another one, but yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be difficult, and getting consistent time is gonna be hard to come by. And I'm curious to see how the deal works out. Obviously, we're against it, home of the free Katuchin movement, but we'll see. James is in the house. He says basically the whole second half of the season, Schalke without Rahman, Harit, Serdar, Mascarell. To be fair to him, most teams would struggle losing almost their spine. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
I don't expect us to maintain the same level of performance, but I also don't expect us to go 16 games without a win. And I think that's what the point I'm trying to make is that pendulum is going too far, in my opinion. Yeah, that's all.
So we're obviously against this. Williams in the house. He says, "I'm late. Sorry. 2 questions. 1, I see Derek Ray had us in a playoff relegation spot. Yes, we were the 4th from the bottom on the Derek Ray's list. And then he says, do you see us ending there? I hope not. That's all I can say right now. I hope not. And then which striker do you see disappearing now that we signed a quality striker like Gonzalo?"
Well, Katuchu for one, apparently.
Yeah. Bergstall, you think would be the logical choice?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still going to get his garbage time, muck it up minutes where he comes on in the 75th minute and just like harasses people to like bother them. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm with. I think you and I agree. I think it's likely going to be like a Paciencia Uth partnership, and I guess we'll see. But we're not going to know until we really get into it. And like I said, I wouldn't expect him necessarily be in the starting 11 on Friday for Bayern.
Yeah, and what do you think about Derek's at least position table for Schalke? You think it's that drastic this year again? I mean, it was pretty bad last year. No doubt about it. I'm not.
Yeah, I'll have to double check. I thought he said, like, was it 15th or was it actually in
4th from the bottom? That's all I know. So if there's 18 teams, you were 15.
Yeah.
Augsburg he had dead last. I know. That.
I don't think it's unrealistic. What would we finish last season? 12th.
Yeah, that's because we had such a great start.
3 spots less. No significant moves. Loss of Daniel Caligiuri.
Yeah.
Loss of John Joe Kenny at right back, although I know people once again on Schalke Twitter sometimes aren't fans of him. But I mean, I think a right back is better than 0 right backs. I mean, kind of hard to not make that case. I could see it. I haven't decided where I want to put it yet. I haven't done my full preseason Bundesliga.
We'll get to that today.
I mean, I usually publish like the whole like table list so that people can laugh at me end of the year and see how badly I did in predicting it.
Maybe I'll pick Schalke to win the league again.
Don't you dare. See, I at least had Schalke, I think 10th last season. We finished close to that, so I was being there. I haven't decided where I want us this year, but yeah, I could totally see us dropping a couple extra places. I hope that what ends up happening is that our performances are kind of more of a mix between what happened in the first half last year and the second half, and it's a more steady ship and we finish, mid-table again.
Score some freaking goals.
Yeah, seriously. We'll see.
So speaking of goals, our first game is against Bayern this Friday. We're gonna have to preview it. It'll be quick. It doesn't look tasty to me, considering what we've done and who they are. Yeah, what do you think of this game?
Here's the preview. We gonna lose.
We gonna lose.
That's the preview. I mean, yeah, Bayern. This shouldn't even be a case of like, well, you never know. Bayern might not be back into like peak form.
Tired.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they just got back from summer break. Maybe it'll take them a while to get in gear. I mean, they just won the Champions League like 2 weeks ago. I think they're pretty much in gear. Like it's not like they've had that much time off. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yeah. And then once again, just the right back issue. I mean, you're gonna have Coman, Alphonso Davies, whoever else coming. I mean, it's yeah.
Hulk. I mean, Goretzka is gonna be there doing his thing. I mean, the whole team is this. They're too good not to do good. It's going to be a difficult game for us. And like, this is what we kind of talked about before with Wagner, what kind of discipline do we show defensively? The midfield has to 100% help out with the defense. Cause if you leave the 4 back there to do what they have to do, they're going to get torn up left and right. It doesn't mean we're not going to get torn up. We put 11 behind the ball, but we have to have a fully committed team defensively and play on the counterattack with, somebody with speed. I don't know. Maybe this is a game for Rahman or something like that. Nakatuchu, I guess.
Go, Robbie, go.
Yeah, Robbie, yeah.
The classic strategy, the go Robbie go strategy. It's a great tactic. What I will say, Paciencia, in that Frankfurt game last season where they 5-1 Bayern and got Kovac fired, right? Yep. Paciencia drew the red card on Boateng early to get him sent off, scored the 5th goal, hockey assist on maybe the 3rd, very much involved in that game. So, hey, we have somebody on our team now that can do some damage against Bayern, apparently. We need that, if anything, is a little
Play the 2 big boys. Why not? Play the 2 big boys. Why not?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So I'm not going to be looking for a result in this game. If we get one, I'll take it. Yeah. But I want to see how competitive we are. That's the thing I'm looking for. Are we actually making an effort in the game? Is it going to be 90% possession for Bayern, or is it going to be more like 60-40? You expect them to be dominating that possession, but I want to see us look competitive, trying hard. And if we do that, it gives me some hope. If we just look like a flash in the pan, we lose 7-0 or something. Yeah. Oh man, it's going to be a tough season.
But Richard, that's all you and I ever asked for. We're realistic on this podcast. Yeah. We understand where the team is at this point. We're not saying that like we need to go beat Bayern because we need to beat Bayern because pride or something. Like we understand we're not on that level. But there's a difference between the game in the Hinrunde where we lost 3-0, but like played really, really outplayed them in the second half. Probably had 2 penalties that should have gone our way. We were fine with that performance for the most part. We liked that second half performance that gave us something to hold on to. There's a difference between that and the Hinrunde version where was it 5-0 and it was just a complete rout like from the beginning. Like, so yeah, we're okay with a loss, but we'd like to see, a performance that looks something closer to that first half of the season performance as a coach. That's all we're saying here. Yeah.
And Doug saying, the question is, do we put one in the net and keep Bayern from scoring 5? We'd like that to happen. Honestly, that would be great. That would be the best case result for us. He said he'll be happy with a 2-1 or 3-1 loss. And I agree that would mean that we were competitive in that game and it wasn't a annihilation. And that's what I'm afraid of, given Bayern's current condition and what we showed at the end of the season. We are going to give Wagner and the team a chance because you have to be optimistic at the beginning of the season, but we'll see. Let's see what kind of team shows up. So that's, I think, the big thing there. So I don't know if we need to beat that dead horse anymore. What do you think?
Yeah.
You got anything else? No,
good.
All right. Well, let's get into the season preview. It's going to be difficult. Obviously, the first 5 games are difficult. The first, 3rd, and 5th games are Bayern, Leipzig, and Dortmund. And in between there, you got Werder Bremen and Union Berlin. Those are tough 5 games. It's going to be a difficult season, Jack.
The silver lining about those games against Bayern, Dortmund, and Leipzig, and this is me grasping for a silver lining big time. I'm reaching for it, man. Is that all of those games take place on the road in the first half of the season? It is possible that we're going to be seeing severely diminished crowds right now because I don't know what the word is yet, but I imagine they're not letting in full amounts of people back in the stadiums right now. It's still going to be not the atmosphere that we're used to. So, but depending on how things go over the course of the year, second half of the season, we might actually see more people in the stadiums, and that could give us a little bit more of a home field advantage than those teams are going to enjoy in the first half. That's me, trying to put a silver lining on that. But
I saw some decent crowds in some of the Pokal matches. So they'll be fairly decent crowds.
But yeah, Germany's handling it better than us in the U.S. right now. So
this is true. This is very true. So, but still, a partially full crowd is better than a full crowd, especially like at Dortmund and Bayern. Those can be very raucous crowds, and Leipzig as well. So that's a decent point there. And hopefully in the end of the season or second half of the season, we're gonna have more people out, and then hopefully Veltons will be rocking. So we'll see. But the games following that, so those first 5 games are very difficult. But following that, we got Stuttgart, Mainz, Wolfsburg, and then Gladbach and Leverkusen. So some decent games we could rebound from. And if we get, if we come out of those first 5 games, somewhat level, that's a good sign. I think if we come out of those first 5 games 0-5 and show no competitiveness, this is going to be a miserable season. But if we come out of there with like 2-3 or something, or with maybe 2 draws in there, that's okay. And we need to survive the first 5 games, I think. And then, like I said, the most important thing is be competitive in those games. Give us hope.
There's some games in those first 7-8 games that are winnable games.
Yeah, absolutely.
In theory, the thing I'm struggling with, I think you are as well, is just we have no idea what to expect. Once again, is it the first half of the season we saw under Wagner? Is it the second half? Is it some of the things we've seen in the preseason at times, where we're getting, we're shipping goals to third division teams, or what is it? Like we don't know what we're actually going to see out there. So it's difficult for me to be like, yeah, Werder Bremen, Union Berlin in the bag. Like we could be losing those games for all we know. So we do know for a fact that it's probably not going to be pretty to start. It's a question of is it bad or is it catastrophic? That's the question.
Doug says there'll probably be no fans because the infection rate is too high in Munich right now. So I guess that's something for us, at least for the Munich game. But I'm curious what the Dortmund and Leipzig crowds are going to be like in both, in those cities. See how they're doing. It's probably going to be some fans there, I would think. But let's see. It's still several weeks away. Anything can happen. But it's a long season. It's too much unknown for us to really truly predict how we think it's going to go. If it was. Because we had a Jekyll and Hyde team last year, and we don't know which team's going to show up. Obviously, having Harit, Serdar back, Mascarell, that's going to be big for us in terms of creating offensive flow. That leaves me optimistic for sure. I'm hoping that we can, if we can get to the Winterpause, somewhere mid-table, that's a good thing. I don't expect us to be like we did last Winterpause and be, fighting for Champions League, but it's a difficult team. If I had to place do our final rankings for this year, the optimist in me would say, we'll finish like 10th. But what Derek Ray said, probably not too far off either. It's probably somewhere in the middle there, maybe like a 12th, like you predicted last year. I don't know. We'll have to see the first month to see what kind of team we got. Honestly, it's so many unknowns. This is like the most unknowns I think we've had going into the season.
Yeah, tough situation for sure. The club's in a tough spot right now.
Yeah. So what do you think? Where do you think we'll end up in this?
I think whatever comes, we'll get through it together, man.
Well, we'll have to, right? We'll have to. Season 4, keeping on strong. We need each other more than ever now. Oh, man. Those days of flying high in second place at Tedesco are long gone. So, I'm curious for those in the room with us here on YouTube. What do you think? How do you think we're going to do this season in terms of placement? It's going to be a difficult season, but I think who do you think the key players have to be for us to have a successful season?
Talking to me?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm talking.
I think talking to everybody.
I'm talking to everybody.
Yeah,
you right now.
I mean, I think it's the main names that you would expect. Suat, Serdar, Harit. They need to stay healthy. They need to kind of show the kind of production they were showing last season. If both of them are putting in goal tallies that are approaching 10, like more than maybe 7 goals a piece, that kind of thing, that's going to go a long way to helping us out. We need to see the offense step up. So we need big performances from Marco. We need I'd like to say we need big performances from Katuchu, but these Ibisevic needs to be not totally washed, and I don't believe he is yet. Still had an effect last season. So we need to get quality managed minutes from Ibisevic. We need Marco to capitalize on the promise that he showed when we initially signed him. Maybe, year 2 in Wagner's system, Benito Raman settle a little bit more. We'll see. I think most of our focus needs to be on what's going on going forward, because 38 goals in 34 games is not going to get you where you need to be, even if your defense is pretty special, which
Didn't
I'm not entirely
Lewandowski have
sure
way
will be.
more than that last year? The same.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, yeah, should have won the Ballon d'Or if they didn't cancel it.
Yeah. Who is your ideal starting 11 this season? Who's Jack Mangan starting 11? Like, I'll tell you mine. Fireman, I think, probably starting the net. It's probably a good call there. Back four. Who do we got at right back?
Well, that's why I was pausing immediately, because I was like, ideal. Like
at the moment, it's Rudy.
Rudy at right back is never ideal, but like,
but
I kind of have to say that
you got what you got, right? Ozan Kabak and maybe Sane in the middle there. Nasasic with the backup role. Left back, Chipka, obviously, because I'm not going to trust Mendel until he proves me wrong. Midfield, we got a lot of options there. I mean, Mascarell in that 6 role is probably going to have to be do well there. Serdar, Harit, if you could fit Bentaleb in there somehow, and then maybe up top with Ut and I guess Paciencia overall, either Paciencia or Ibisevic, and I guess that's I don't even know how I lost count how many guys that is right there, but maybe Rahman and Ut interchange throughout the season, but that's probably at the moment my starting 11. It'd be nice to see Nick jump in there somehow during the season, but at the moment that's probably who I'd go with.
Yeah, I'll put Fairman in net. I'm fine with that. Center back pairing of Kabak and Sane. Right back Becker, because I'm not going to say Rudy. I refuse until he demonstrates
I would like to see Becker.
Yeah, I mean, I think Becker did put in some shifts there. Wasn't thoroughly convincing, but he played there a couple times last season. I'm fine with that.
He's actually a right back.
Yeah, I mean, Ochipka left back. Central midfield, Mascarell when he gets healthy. I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup against Bayern because he's still kind of coming back in the meantime. Could be Stambouli. But I'd probably like to see Bentaleb ultimately and Mascarell as like central midfield. Some of this is going to depend on what kind of general system and shape and formation that Wagner picks, because I mean, ideally I'd like to see like Mascarell, Bentaleb, Serdar, and Harit all on the field at the same time. But that would probably have to be more of a diamond shape to make that work for the most part. I mean, it's possible you could go like straight 4-4-2 with like Serdar and Harit like wide, but once again, I don't think that necessarily ideally suits either of those players. And then once again, are we going to see, a striker partnership with Mark Ut kind of playing second striker? Or are we going to see like a lone guy up top? In which case, then maybe you bring in some wing players like Matano, it kind of depends. So, but yeah, ideally I would like to see Harit, Serdar, Bentaleb, Mascarell on the field together as much as possible, because I think that actually is a pretty strong like core midfield that you can put together there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Doug says we have the talent to be 7th to 10th this year, but the execution is the key, 100%. And maybe Wagner isn't finding the way to get the most out of the talent. And we saw it toward the tail end of the season, but I guess you could say the opposite of the first half of the season. So we'll see. Again, too many unknowns with this. So I guess, only thing left, I guess we got a lot of listener questions, Jack. Let's get to them. We've already answered a bunch here on YouTube here live. Let me bring up the whole handy dandy notepad here. First from our buddy James, who's actually on the telecast with us.
We're sponsored by Blues Clues now, in case you weren't sure. Handy dandy.
Can you tell I have a toddler?
Yeah. You go.
He says, what do you think with a healthy Harit, Serdar, and Rahman, and the addition of Bentaleb? Can the team turn this around? The potential is there, but there's so many unknowns. We don't know how they're going to play together yet. We're hoping that it does turn around, because we both mentioned, I think, almost all those players in our starting 11, ideally. So hopefully that's the case. The main thing for me is injuries are far and few this season, and especially those core guys stay there, especially the core guys in defense as well. Kabak and Sane, both those guys had injuries last year. If we can keep people healthy, I like our chances of at least fighting around mid-table, but it's too early to tell at the moment to see what we got. But I hope with those additions that we should do better. We should do better this year. What do you think, Jack? You agree?
Copy paste.
Copy paste. I like it. From the Facebook group, Glenn Collins says, looks like we were about to sign the surplus striker, which we did, Paciencia from Frankfurt. So preseason predictions. How many starts will Coutinho get? And then will Bergstaller make the bench? Bergstaller might be the starter.
Who knows, man? Bergstaller, you know what? Bergstaller for right back. I'm calling it now. That's the solution. That's all he does is just harass people. Put him in at right back.
He doesn't stop running. Let's
go for it.
He doesn't cross, but
yeah, dude, he's gonna foul people. It's gonna be great.
But you would think if a striker is gonna be shipped out or not getting the pitch time outside of Katuchu, it's probably going to be Bergstaller is not going to get with Paciencia and Ibisevic coming in. But Wagner loved him last year.
Think of it. If he's playing right back, he can't be offside.
You think? He will.
I mean, I'm sure I'll find a way, but I'm just saying.
He could be in goal and be offside.
He can't get caught offside, I'm just big brain stuff here. I'm solving all of our problems on the fly. This is great.
I love it. Glenn William asked, what do you think about starting Schubert? Do you think starting Schubert would have been better choice than starting Fährmann? We kind of talked about it earlier, Jack, but
I mean, I think it solely depends on what we're seeing in preseason. Obviously, we're not in there. I'm sure that's being made for a number of reasons, primarily performance, but also who knows where that kid's head's at after last season. Because once again, I don't think Wagner managed that situation particularly well, and kind of put him in a tough spot. And there was a lot of conversation, including on this podcast, of us talking about this guy all the time. And if he was reading any of that internet conversation, I'm sure that wasn't great for his confidence either. So yeah, I'm fine with giving the keys back to Fährmann. If it turns out he's washed, then fine, give it back to Schubert. But sounds like he's been decent in the preseason, and I mean that's a steady, familiar hand who understands the team and has a lot of Bundesliga experience. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, from the experience that he has, from what I've seen in the preseason, I think, and also the mentorship aspect, I think starting Fährmann is a good choice. Yeah, you want to get your youngster some pitch time, but like Jack, you just mentioned, is he all there mentally? And I think that's such a big key for a goalkeeper, especially young goalkeepers. And I think if having someone like Fährmann there to help him, guide him along the way mentally, teaching some things behind the scenes to help him prepare himself better, will go a long way. And I'm totally fine with Fährmann starting, assuming he does a good job. And that's the thing. The main thing we've always talked about with goaltenders here is that if they're good enough, or if they're playing really well, keep them in there. But if they're they're letting in goals, easy goals, then switch them out. So. Hey, Jake's on the show. He says, work rate, energy need to be extremely high for this team to do okay. The first half of last season, we were pressing like crazy, which is true as a team, and then abandoned it completely after the break, which is still mind-blowing to us. That
Could not agree more.
Had our best game against Gladbach, and then this disappeared.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, he's right. I mean, that seems to be like it's not like it's plan A. Like there is no plan B. Like assuming Wagner goes into the season with a similar kind of tactical idea as what he was trying to accomplish in the first half. Like, I mean, what we've seen so far is if that's not working and the players aren't executing that properly, there's really not a whole lot for us to fall back on. So hopefully there's some fresh ideas. We talked about it last year, like how few shapes Wagner felt comfortable working out of. I mean, we criticized Tedesco for too many experimentations, probably. So we appreciated the continuity from Wagner to some extent.
Something in the middle.
Yeah, it seemed like he just kind of ran out of ideas. So that'll be something to keep an eye on is how well that's working, if that's even going to be a focus going into the season, which I imagine it would be. But
I love the plan A that Wagner has, because I think the pressing does work, like to Jake's point. But I think we need to have a backup plan B or B and C just in case a team can figure that out, like a Bayern would or a Dortmund. Have a backup plan to do something different, and don't just rely on to say, hey, just do what you got to do. Also back on the Facebook group, David Thielen, and if I butcher any of your names, I apologize. Please just let me know. Like last year, I kept saying Mark Uth, and it's Mark Uth. So anyway, he says, with the recent moves at forward as an option, I get the loaning of Paciencia, but I sure as hell don't understand why we'd loan out Katuchu to another team. If it was Bergstaller, I would understand it. And we agree 100%. We talked about that before. I mean, as long as he's playing, that's the key. But if you're not, like Doug's point earlier, he said, if Wagner's not even going to play Katuchu, you just loan him out and let him play, because you don't want to ruin the kid's career, because he obviously has a lot of potential, at least from what we've seen. Given opportunities somewhere to at least to prove to us that he does have it or doesn't have it.
Yeah.
At least we can settle that question. So Joseph Lacrita says, how excited are you guys from a scale of 0 to 10 and why? And you had an interesting comment. You said head and heart. So tell us what is your rating?
Yeah, I think my head and my heart have different answers to that, which is what I said, which is my heart's probably like a 10 in terms of excitement, and my head's like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
Just because I understand where we are at the moment, and with a very similar squad makeup, minus a couple key players like McKennie, like Caligiuri, or even, I mean, performances aside, a consistent and reliable right back in John Joe Kenny, who played practically every game for us last season, as opposed to having 0 right backs this time. Yeah. The squad is not particularly different or better than it was last year. So for us to expect to somehow have significantly better results. I just don't know if I see it. I hope it's the case. And yeah, I hope we play somewhat closer to how we looked in the first half of the season. But given what we've seen recently, given the financial situation, the lack of squad building that we can really accomplish, I'm very, from a head perspective, mentally, like if I'm being honest about it and trying to be objective, it's difficult for me to get too revved up about this upcoming season.
I'm at a 7, and I'll tell you why.
Love it. Love the optimism.
It's not, and I'm with you on the, and thinking with the head and the heart. I'm optimistic because we got guys back from injury, Harit, Serdar, Mascarell soon, and then we also got some guys back that have skill set and they give us a little bit more depth than we had. Maybe it's a slight upgrade. It's guys we've had before, and there's no one new, but it's a slight upgrade in some sense. We've lost another, obviously in right back we've lost, but so that gives me a little bit of hope. Hopefully that maybe if they all stay healthy, we can do much better than we did in the Rook Runda. But it's also, I know that I saw what happened last year, and until I'm proven something proves us differently, you have in the back of your mind that we're going to continue to play that same way. And so I'm more optimistic that we have a solid or a healthy team at the moment, and maybe that'll help us with better results. And that's why it's a 7. So I'm very much thinking the same way as you are. Dirk Krebs says the season will start for me after the match in Munich. I guess I can see that, but it's going to be for me from the get-go, because we have 5 games and I want to see how we do competitively in those games. I keep repeating myself, but I understand if we lose, we go 0-5 to start, that's one thing, but I want to make sure we're competitive in those games. If they're all 2-1 games and we're playing freaking hard, okay, that's not a bad, it's okay season. But if it's 5-1, 5-0 every game,
that's got to be the motto going into the year. Play freaking hard. That's got to be the motto.
Freaking hard.
No,
I put that on my my scarf over here. Yeah, hashtag. It's a long hashtag. Paul Forrester asks, what do you predict will be the opening day starting 11?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that Mascarell is going to be in there for injury reasons. Nastasic obviously had that the head injury in that friendly, so he's not going to be available either. I would expect it to be Rudy and Ochipka, right and left back respectively. Kabak and Sane, assuming they're fit. Maybe Stambouli slots in the midfield. Maybe he's in center back as well. Chance that Stambouli plays right back too, although I think that's unlikely. And then I would imagine Uts in there. Harit. Those guys.
I think the bigger question is it going to be Paciencia or Ibisevic? And I think we're both slightly heading towards Ibisevic.
Maybe Bergstar.
Probably will be. Hamza Mendyl too, partnering with him.
Yes. Dubs only.
David had another question. He says, do you guys feel that Schalke in any way addressed the 3 areas of need this year? Forward, right back, left back. Personally thought the Rudy at right back scares him. Mendy at left back and only Ibisevic at forward. Well, now Paciencia doesn't give him much confidence going to the game on Friday. And I think those defensive positions, right back and left back, we certainly did not address those positions. I mean, Rudy is not the answer. Neither is Mendy as a backup. But I think the forward positions, though, we obviously wanted better players or a definitive starting striker. Ibisevic and Paciencia are decent depth players, I think, to have, or starters. And it's got to be an upgrade in terms of what they've done last year compared to what the guys we had last year, right? Ibisevic had 7 goals last year, and Paciencia, he can score some goals as well. So
7 goals as well, 4 assists in the Bundesliga at least.
We already got the hashtag going. Look at Doug, play freaking hard.
There you go. So my answer to that question to all 3 is no. I don't think we've done enough. We've done literally nothing to replace the right back. Because I'm sorry, Sebastian Rudy he's not a right back. So once again, if that works out, great. Happy for it. Good job, David Wagner. It could be the Max Meyer to a holding midfield masterstroke of this season. Could be this season's version of that kind of a thing. Who knows? But losing 2 players that could play right back for you and replacing them with 0 is not addressing that. Hamza Mendyl, that helps our depth situation at left back, but you're basically just bringing him in for Miranda. And once again, Hamza Mendyl, it's not new blood, and he played horribly for us in his first stint. So once again, second chance. Looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the table. I'm going to be watching him closely, and I hope it goes really well for him. But I'm not ready to say that that's addressing the left back situation yet either. And then up top, I think Paciencia has a potential to be surprising and be a legit option for us. But Yeah, once again, 36-year-old Ibisevic. You're bringing in Mark Oot, who did not play well for us either. You know, I don't really think we addressed any of those needs going into this new year, and totally understand, you know, the financial constraints that have played a huge part in that. But yeah, I think they've done what they can to kind of patchwork some stuff, but it's not super convincing. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think on that note, we've gone over the hour mark. It's a preview show.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of our longer shows, but we had to rant on certain topics, as you would expect. We had a lot of great questions from you guys, both here on YouTube and as well on Twitter and Facebook and all the social media. So thank you for all the questions that came in. We love it very much with the interaction here. So yeah. Before we wrap this up, if you haven't signed up for the Schalke US newsletter, make sure you do that. Easy as sending in your email, and you'll get the updates every month. So make sure you do that. Get your gear like the gear I'm wearing, the Schalke third alternate jersey in the Schalke store from Fanatics. It's I love this kit. I love the collar, Jack. I'm not going to lie. But we also have merchandise for our podcast. So, you know, check that out at teespring.com. For sure, get the swag, Jack. I didn't see you wearing some stuff too. I got my mug here somewhere. I don't know where it is, but
that's the next purchase I gotta get. I gotta get that coffee mug. That's what I gotta. That's what I gotta get.
Yeah. So definitely do that. All right. Keep tuning in each week as we bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. We want to thank Schalke, all our listeners for their questions, for helping us providing tidbits for our podcast today. If there are any topics you'd like us to discuss, make sure you tweet us at SchalkeMerica. We want to give a shout out to our future sponsors, NBC4 Nashville, for their continued support. Jack, first off, where can our followers or listeners follow you on social media?
Well, if you're watching this video, it's on the screen now. Great call. I'm putting the Twitter handle but for all of our audio listeners, at JM Mangan, JMMangan.
Yes, and this is episode 98. We're getting so close to episode 100. So we might just do a giveaway for episode 100.
The podcast handle has more followers than I do. If you're going to follow the podcast, you might as well follow me as well. Let's
I agree.
Let's get Jack to like close to 1,000 finally.
Maybe we'll contribute that into the giveaway there too. So
I'm languishing in the the no man's land of Twitter right now. It's pretty brutal.
So yeah, you can follow me here on YouTube. You can see my name right there at R_KHARMAN. And as always, we'll catch you on the next episode. Gluck out for this Friday. And we'll catch you next episode. Tschüss. Hey, it's the first episode. I'm already messing up over this. Look at this thing. I love this.